personnel of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will you please, Secretary, please call the roll?
Director Herndon?
Present.
Director Miller?
Here.
Director Taylor?
In attendance.
Director Woodward? And we do have Director Baez joining the committee meeting, and Chair Phillips.
Present.
We have 4 committee members present.
I will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Members, please mute your devices.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will now have an announcement regarding regarding interpretation for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes. Para las personas que desean escuchar la Junta Escolar en español, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el número de Junta que es 934-6607-4585. Una vez más, para escuchar la Junta Escolar en español, por favor de llamar al teléfono 312-626-6799 y marcar el código de Junta que es 934-6607-4585. Gracias.
Gracias. Due to the contingencies of the COVID-19 public health pandemic, this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members are participating remotely, and the Central Services building is closed to the public. However, in order to allow as much public participation as possible, in addition to our normal practice of broadcasting our meetings on radio station WYMS 88.9 FM and live streaming them on the MPS YouTube stream, or on the MPS website, we are also broadcasting this meeting on the MPS YouTube stream, the link to which can be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. We will now move on to our items of business. As stated in the public notice, individuals who wish to speak are required to register in advance. I ask those waiting to speak, please remain on the platform until you are called upon. Although we are on a virtual platform, we will still follow Robert's Rules of Order, which dictates that all comments should be directed toward the chair. Also, any questions or requests, including those from board members or administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. As always, written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Written comments may be submitted to the board via the Board of Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting esb.milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item number 1 is action on monthly personnel matters, action on classified personnel transactions, action on certificated appointments, actions on leaves of absence, the report on certificated resignations and classified retirements, the affirmative action report, and the remote work plan report. The administration recommends that the board approve the promotions, appointments, and leaves as listed in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval. Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Secretary.
For our listening audience, Director Woodward has joined the committee.
Welcome, Director Woodward. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. Keith Posley, Superintendent of Schools. We're asking for your approval for the monthly personnel item as well as the reporting item before you. Adria Matalini is here with me this afternoon, and we are able to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? President Miller. I believe you're muted, President Miller.
My hand is up and she looking right in my face. I don't know what she's doing.
Director Woodward, I did call on President Miller, but I think that he's having trouble with his speaker. So Director Woodward, if you'd like to go.
I just move adoption of the administration recommendation.
All right, we have a, thank you. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Woodward's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on monthly personnel matters. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller. We do see a thumbs up and there are 4 board members there to witness and the superintendent as an aye. Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, before we move on to the next item, President Miller, are you able to, there you go. Okay, now I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry about that. Yes, I did give you a thumbs up. I could not get my computer to unmute. I apologize, Chair Phillips.
That's all right. We're glad that we've been able to figure out those technical difficulties. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item number 2 is action on recommended administrative appointments, promotions, reassignments, and reclassifications, salary increases and decreases, and limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days. The administration is recommending that the board, 1, authorize the individuals to be promoted, reassigned, reclassified, receive the salary increases or decreases, and be appointed to the classifications indicated in the attachments to this item to be effective upon board approval. And 2, approve the limited term employment contracts exceeding 60 days pursuant to administrative policy 6.23 parent 4 parent B to be effective as indicated in the attachment.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we're requesting your approval of the administrative appointments and LTE contracts that are before you, and we are happy to respond to any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Vice Chair Herndon.
I move that we accept the recommendation of administration.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the administrative appointment item. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item number 3 is action on Resolution 2021R-005 by Director Woodward regarding Central Region staffing. The recommendation is that the board adopt the resolution as attached to this item.
Thank you. Does seeing that this is a report, Director Woodward, would you like to speak before the administration?
I will. No, I do not. I think the report should come first.
Okay, thank you. Administration, would you like to make
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we have carried out the board's motions related to the resolution 2021R-005 regarding Central Region staffing. As a part of the board action, the administration convened a task force to focus on recruitment and long-term stability of employees working in schools with vacancies. I would like to thank the members of the task force for their diligence in carrying out this work. This evening, we will hear an overview of the task force report, which includes recommendations in alignment with the resolution, which includes some minor amendments. We did have an opportunity to discuss the resolution and the amendments with Director Woodworth, and she is amenable to our minor amendments and that the administration is proposing. At this time, I will ask Mr. Calvin Furman to begin the presentation, and after which we will be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Calvin.
Good evening, Chair Phillips, members of committee. Calvin Furman, Deputy Superintendent. Director Woodward introduced Resolution 2021R-005 regarding difficulty in recruiting and retaining talent in Central Region schools. In September 2020, the board passed a motion to create a task force to review the difficulties with recruiting and retaining talent in hard-to-staff MPS schools, particularly the Comprehensive Support and Improvement, or CSI schools. The task force was charged with reviewing possible revisions in current policies or procedures to increase the recruitment and long-term stability of employees working in hard-to-staff schools. More specifically, the task force was to review the current school transfer and interview processes, possible incentives, and the need to ensure that building leaders are collaborative and practice shared leadership. The task force reviewed the charge from the board and Resolution 2021R-005 and created a common goal to recruit and retain professional educators in the CSI schools and MPS in order to create, build, and sustain inclusive and culturally responsive learning environments. The work of the task force was grounded in data and research. The task force was divided into 3 separate subgroups, and each group was provided recruitment and retention data for CSI schools, data regarding the progression of permit teachers, and selected survey data. The task force included principals from CSI schools, talent management professionals from the Office of Human Resources, among others. So the task force members also relied on their experiences and their expert lens to help identify why hard-to-staff schools are not able to attract and retain highly qualified and culturally diverse candidates to their schools. Each group utilized a system of 5 whys, a root cause analysis to identify a problem of practice that could be hindering the recruitment efforts of the CSI schools. Then they worked on solutions to the problem, again, relying on data, research, and their expertise. The task force would also meet as a whole group to review and discuss the work product and recommendations of the subgroups. Each group recognized from the data that MPS recruits well and that the primary issue for MPS is the retention of qualified staff. So each group primarily addressed retention of staff through various means. For Group 1, the problem of practice identified the importance of onboarding new staff and identifying a process through which all new staff can be integrated to better serve the students. For Group 2, the problem of practice identified is the increased need for mentoring and training of teachers in hard-to-staff schools. For Group 3, the problem of practice identified is that while MPS does recruit a diverse teacher candidate pool, many of the teachers are hired on permits, and the problem is ensuring that these individuals enroll in and complete their programs in a timely manner to become fully licensed educators. Some members of the task force also participated in meetings with the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, or DPI, regarding staffing concerns in CSI schools. Among the topics discussed with DPI is consideration of incentives to attract and retain educators in CSI schools. So incentives were also reviewed and recommendations were made in this area as well. At this time, I will turn it over to Principal Rhoda Jones-Goodwin to provide a case example of the process each group undertook. Afterward, we will highlight the task force's recommendations. Rhoda?
Good evening, Chair Phillips and members of the board. I am Rhoda Jones-Goodwin, the proud principal of Manitoba School. As a member of the task force for hard-to-fill schools, I want to acknowledge all the group participants in what we went through with this process, as we were tasked with identifying a problem of practice. As a member of the subgroup 3, we initially identified an initial problem of practice. For us, we looked at the recruitment path to educate potential employees, which meant we believed that it would help to diversify the staff in our high-need demographic areas, which would be measured by the fulfillment of the positions in the high-need areas. Upon doing this, in our initial data review of the hard-to-fill schools, we actually were presented with data that was reviewed in November of 2020. Some of the data that we reviewed included CSI new hires, teacher district teacher diversity, exit surveys of about 536 certificated staff. So looking at the resignations, 153 of those came from CSI schools and 356 were just resignations of other things. So some of the key responses that were identified were the lack of support, health issues, another district with opportunities, family, workload expectations, or retirement. We also looked at the patterns in the exit survey with the standing question, what would have kept you here? Many put down no response, but we saw another pattern. Some of them said consistency needed between schools and discipline, not enough support by colleagues, the need for more support by administration, classroom assignments and workload is unrealistic. They needed more support. More said more pathways to career advancement, and others said the impact to their families, meaning a lot of people said they had moved to Milwaukee, they did not have the support. And they also talked about flexibility in the work schedules. They wish they could have had more flexibility. So as we looked at the data, what did the data tell us? We looked at the variance of issued licensures. At that time, we looked at how many teachers were issued licensures, 118, interns were 8, and permit were 24 teachers. We did a deeper dive. We looked at the fiscal year 2018 and did a permit teacher overview. There were 411 intern permit teachers that were in process for FY18. And as of December 2020, we looked at their status. 168 have terminated their employment. 139 are currently certificated employed with MPS. 70 are still intern or permit teachers. 28 are supplemental or substitute teachers, and 6 are paraprofessionals. We also did a further look at the CSI diversity in FY20, and we did a breakdown of diversity. There was a total of 1,433 teachers and 5 administrators. And looking at the breakdown, there were 594 that were white, 440 that were Black, 78 that were Hispanic, 34 that were Asian, 20 that were other or 2 or more, and 17 that were non-specific or specified. So then we had to look at our problem of practice. We came up with a new problem of practice. We looked at and said MPS does recruit and attract a diverse teacher candidate pool. However, what we noticed, many of the teachers are hired on permits, and the problem is ensuring these individuals enroll in and complete their programs in a timely manner to become fully licensed teachers. So, upon using research based on best practices, and we completed a small sample survey looking at intern and permit teachers, and what we found, their thoughts align with our thought process. So our goal was to create in the future a survey that will give us not open-ended questions, but more of a direct response to what we are looking for to address this issue. So what could it look like? We said, what could it look like? So based on the brief research completed on our time frame, we arrived at 3 recommendations for levels of support. First, we said to spread the New Educator Institute out and have the week at the beginning of the year, but then offer additional sessions on a monthly basis for new learning and refresher lessons. We also said, depending on the certification program, allowing the permit teachers time during the week to focus on classwork with the resources that the school can provide. Then finally, we said, we're going to find out from Milwaukee Public Schools University and Mentoring and Induction what assistance is already offered to teacher candidates and ensure that all permit teachers are aware of the assistance. So in concluding, we always maintained our focus on best practices for the new educators. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Mr. Michael Harris, Director of Talent Management.
Thank you, Principal Godwin. Chair Phillips and members of the committee, Michael Harris, Senior Director of Talent Management. So based on the information that you just received, the task force, all 3 groups, just to reiterate that, all 3 groups went through the same process, identifying their problem of practice, but also looking through the lens of their expertise and best practices. And therefore, we came up with 3 recommendations that we feel that will leverage the Central Region and CSI schools to best recruit and retain professional educators. And one of those recommendations form around the idea of onboarding. We want to ensure that every new hire that we bring into Milwaukee Public Schools has the same experience regardless of what school they are hired at. That means we need to make sure that their basic needs are met as they're coming into our schools. That requires the principal and the leadership team at those schools to make sure that they have the tools and the resources to allow them to engage their employees so that they begin from day one. When we offer the position, they are part of that school's community. So it really falls around the basic needs, being very clear about the expectations. What does it require to work in our central region and our CSI schools? It will look different. It will feel different than other schools within the district. However, understanding that we will provide that type of support to ensure their success, thus improving student outcomes. It would also focus on the community, learning about the community, not just showing up for work, but really setting the tone and ensuring that the new employees joining the team understand the community in which they serve. The other piece is around academic goals, making sure that we're very clear about the academic goals and achievement that we expect from our teachers, our support staff within those schools. And then lastly, we know that teachers want to grow. So there has to be professional opportunities for teacher leader opportunities within the school. And so that onboarding would be part of the principal and the school leadership's opportunity to really bring in candidates that are ready and willing and are able to do the work that we expect them to do. The second recommendation really aligns with this. And again, all three recommendations align with the district's 5 priorities. But the second piece talks about professional learning with supports. It will require additional supports for these schools and the school leaders to do the work that we're asking them to do. And just like Principal Goodwin just mentioned, it speaks to making sure that we're engaging them in coaching conversations and mentoring. Again, there's a difference there. With mentoring, you have that support within the school, but when we're coaching, we're looking for specific outcomes. We're looking for you to grow and improve. And so we have to be very intentional about that work and to ensure that everybody understands how that should be delivered. The other piece around the professional learning plan would be the extension of the New Educator Institute. We know that specifically in this time, as we've had to engage in a virtual setting, we need to feel like we're part of the community. And so with the new teacher orientation or the Institute, providing this space for new teachers to engage in throughout their first couple of years here in the district is really going to help us build that community and reinforce the expectations that we have for our teachers going into our schools. The third piece is really looking at developing competitive compensation and incentives. We need to, the task force felt very strongly that, again, the schools in the Central Region have really different needs than a lot of our other schools. And we have to be able, from a human resources standpoint, be able to go out and market those schools differently. And definitely incentives help. The professional learning and the supports that they will receive has to be very clear when we're out recruiting and hiring teachers for these particular schools. So those are the 3 recommendations that the Hard to Fill Task Force combined developed to present to you guys tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam Secretary, do you have any members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
All right, comments or questions by committee members?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, we do have one individual who registered to speak on this item, but is not on the platform, Amy Mizialko. And we also received one piece of public testimony.
All right, well, if the speaker joins, please let us know. I did see Director Woodward's hand up.
Okay. I would just like to thank the committee, Dr. Poses, and all the members, Dr. Furman, and everybody that participated in bringing this these recommendations to this committee. And I would like to move approval of the recommendations that have come from this committee and on the resolution. Okay.
All right, we have a motion. Any further comments or questions by committee members? President Miller.
Yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate the report by Mr. Harris. The steps that are being taken and recommended and being taken, I think, are really at a high level and highly appreciated. So I just want to give my full support for what is being recommended. And thank you, Mr. Harris.
Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Director Taylor.
Thank you. Just want to thank you for the work that was doing in that Citron region as well too. I have a couple of schools there, so I'm looking forward to some great outcomes and how we can all work together.
Thank you. Seeing no other committee members and members of the board, also wanted to echo those thank yous. We do have a motion. So Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Madam Chair, before we take the roll, in looking at the platform, we do have Ms. Miziako registered to speak for the next item, not this item. And there's one piece of written public testimony. On Director Woodward's motion to approve the resolution as attached to this item with the modifications. Resolution 2021R-005 regarding Central Region staffing. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 4, action on a request for a technical amendment to the 2021-22 traditional school calendar. The recommendation is that the board approve the technical amendment to the calendar as attached to this item.
Would the administration like to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we're requesting approval of a technical amendment to the 2021-22 school calendar and are happy to respond to any questions that on the suggestions that with the adjustments that has been made to support our MPS school community. I would ask Adria Maddalini to make some comments at this time, please. Adria.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Posey. Chair Phillips and members of the committee, Adria Maddalini, Chief of Human Resources, wanted just to highlight this challenge or this change in the calendar. We'll be moving up the start of the year a few days. The teachers would report on August 26th, and then students report on September 2nd, compared to originally it was on September 7th. Also wanted to mention in this calendar, it's not reflected because it impacts 12-month staff. The way that it's scheduled here for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, the way it falls on our calendar here, Christmas Day falls on a Saturday and Christmas Eve falls on a Friday. Normally, our process is for 12-month staff, you get the 24th and the 25th off. And if the 25th falls on a Saturday or holiday falls on Saturday, you get the preceding day. But considering how there is schools in place on the 23rd, we couldn't have the district closed on the 23rd as well. So we will be having 12-month staff observe the Christmas holiday on the 27th, which is the following Monday, to ensure that district offices are open and to support the schools on the 23rd of December.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any comments or questions by committee members?
I am not seeing any hands up by committee members. However, we do have one speaker who registered and is not on the platform at this time to speak on this item. If she does come on, we will, I will alert you. Chair Phillips.
Thank you. So comments or questions by committee members, or what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? President Miller.
I move adoption of the administration's recommendation.
We have a motion, and any further discussion? I do know that we do have a speaker, and I don't want to necessarily cut them short, but we do have a motion. Go ahead, Dr. Mann.
Madam Chair, it does look like the same speaker has registered for a different item later in the agenda. So if she does join the platform, we can allow the testimony for both items.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments by committee members? All right, seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Miller's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the technical amendment to the 21-22 traditional school calendar as outlined by the administration. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 5, action on a resolution in accordance with the Wisconsin Administrative Code 80.60, parent 3, stating that the board's intent and agreement of self-insurance for workers' compensation benefits. The recommendation is that the board adopt the resolution to authorize the renewal of the board's self-insurance status as attached to this item.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. Every 3 years, the district must reapply to self-insure for the workman compensation benefits. This is in alignment with the Wisconsin Workers' Compensation Act and guidelines set forward by the Department of Workforce Development. We're prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Woodward.
Yes, I move approval of the administration's recommendation.
All right, we have the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Woodward's motion to approve a resolution, the attached resolution relative to Administrative Code 80.60, parent 3, regarding the board's agreement for self-insurance for workers' compensation benefits. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item number 6 is action on a request to seek a waiver from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction for the hours of instruction required for the 2021 school year. The recommendation is that the board approve the request for the waiver.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. The pandemic has had many impacts on K-12 public education, including hours of instruction. Therefore, we are requesting that you authorize the administration to seek a waiver from the Department of Public Instructions for the hours of instruction required for the current school year. We are prepared to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Taylor.
I'll move approval of the item, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the administration's recommendation for a request for a waiver from DPI regarding the hours of instruction for the 2021 school year. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 7, which is action on the monthly finance matters, including the authorization to make purchases, the report on change orders in excess of $25,000, and cumulative purchases in excess of $50,000. Acceptance of the report of the revenues and expenses, the monthly expenditure control report, the report on school funds transfers, the report on contracts under $50,000 and their cumulative totals, the report on the monthly grant awards, the report on the COVID-19 expenditures, and the acceptance of donations. The recommendation by the administration is that the board authorize the purchases and accept the donations as listed in the attachments to this item with appropriate acknowledgements to be made on behalf of the board.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we're asking for your approval of the monthly finance item. Before opening it up for questions, I would like to offer my sincere gratitude to all of our generous donors who supported our schools and our students this month. Together, they gave $319,141 in donations. A big thank you to all of our donors this month. At this time, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to have questions or make comments? Director Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In reference to the financial statements and things that are over $25,000, how does that compare to last year versus this year, seeing as if we know we had some unexpected expenses? Like, what is the difference in amounts?
Administration.
Okay.
Chair Phillips, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. And are you asking about the contract listing?
I believe Director Taylor is asking with the attachment for the change orders, how does this compare to the year prior? And if it's similar or if it's a result of, the pandemic.
So is that the one?
Yes, this is the one.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. And these change orders are, like you said, have to do with the pandemic in that we are providing special programming during the day while the schools are virtual. And in doing so and being a new program, we have had to re-up contracts to keep extending our day program as we look at reopening the schools. So we extend the contracts, and we've also had some special funding from DPI and some carryover funding for our community learning centers. So they've been affected a lot with change orders due to that.
Any follow-up, Director Taylor?
Yes, I actually wanted more of the numbers, like it either increased over 100,000, something to that effect. I wanted more of the numbers of what was the difference or the percentage of last year to this year.
Administration.
Okay. Chair Phillips, Director Taylor, members of the committee, I need like overall change orders overall for the district. I would have to get that. I'm sorry, I would have to get that number for you, but we can get that to you.
Okay.
Like
Any
a
other-
total change orders number?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other follow-up?
No, I'll just wait for them to get some numbers, whether it's later in this meeting or sending it to us. Thank you, Chair Phillips.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions by committee members? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
All right, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? President Miller.
I move adoption of the recommendation.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Miller's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the monthly finance matters and authorization to make purchases. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
No.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, 1 no. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item number 8 is action on the award of professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to the contracts that are before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Director Woodward?
I move adoption of the administration recommendation on this item.
Thank you. We have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Woodward's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the award of professional services contracts. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
The next item is item number 9, action on the award of professional services contracts for the Office of Board Governance. The recommendation is that the board authorize the, The recommendation is that the board authorize the professional services contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Does the Office of Board Governance wish to make comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. The contract that you have before you is for lobbying services for the district, and that is for our external lobbying services. There was actually a request for proposal that was put out, and the incumbent is the service agency that has been servicing the board for over, I think, yes, for sure, the last 3 years. So it's continuation of services.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? President Miller.
Yes, I'll move adoption of the recommendation.
All right, so we have a motion. Any members of the public wish to speak on this item, Madam Secretary?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
All right, we do have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Miller's motion to approve the professional service contract for lobbying services for the Office of Board Governance. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 10, action on the award of exception to bid contracts. The recommendation is that the board authorize the exception to bid contracts as set forth in the attachments to this item.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have on the exception to bid contracts that are before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have one individual on the platform registered to speak on this item. And we also received one written communication on this item as well.
All right, if we could go to the speaker.
So noted. The speaker that we have on the platform to speak on item number 10 is Amy Mizialko. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Amy Mizialko, Mizialko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Phillips and members of the AFP committee. You have received a letter of concern dated March 16th from the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association's Art Teacher Committee. They raised several questions and concerns in their communication to you, including concern about the policy that was passed by the board requiring reports to be provided in March and August. We have not seen a report. An additional concern that $250,000 is being awarded to an outside contractor through a no bid process. Other concerns are laid out, and we're asking for assistance from the AFP committee and from the board in helping us understand why are these exception to bid contracts only going to arts at large. Other questions related to the Cargill Philanthropies partnership grant between MPS, UWM, Linden Sculpture, and Arts at Large, as well as concerns about Roosevelt Middle School of the Arts and Lincoln Center of the Arts not being included as a target for the contracted services paid through the AIM grant. That's AIM. Apparently only ELM is identified in that. So please, again, just asking for the committee's attention to all of the concerns and questions that you are in receipt of from the MTEA Art Teacher Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And for board member reference, we did receive in the packet of public testimony prior to this meeting that letter as part of the attachment.
That is correct.
So do we have any other comments or questions by committee members? Vice Chair Herndon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I too have questions about this item. As the sponsor of the foundation of the development of the arts policy in terms of music, art, and FIED, I have concerns too that this would give an implication that it's about teaching art, visual arts, number one. At least that's the way I see it. And as I did more research on these grants, that doesn't seem to show me that. And so I have concerns about that because I would expect that the art grant would be used to teach visual arts. This would appear to be for professional development for staff. To me, that puts it in a totally different bucket. I would like clarification on that point. I would like clarification for both of the grants, the AIM and the Cargill grant. Another thing is that art instruction is to be provided by licensed district employees. I'm concerned that Arts at Large is not going to meet the requirements that currently we are expecting out of this. And if this is not the case, then maybe we need to go back to the drawing board for clarification, because this definitely doesn't appear to be what the titles would implicate. We can't hear.
Administration.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, I just want to share with the committee that the art and music report is going to be coming in the month of May. We have a thorough report that is on its way, and we will be making that happen. I'm going to turn it over now to Deb Boland to kind of talk about the AIM grant and the Cargill grant and what was the purpose of those grants. Deb?
Sure. Thank you so much. Chair Phillips, Vice Chair Herndon, members of the committee, and Superintendent Posley. Let me take a few moments to clarify the purpose of both of those grants. The Cargill grant is a pre-existing grant that has been in existence for about 3 years. The partnership between Linden Sculpture Garden, Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, and Arts at Large, and it originally included Cardinal Stritch University, existed prior to Milwaukee Public Schools being included in the grant. We had applied to be a part of this partnership, and Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies is interested in supporting visual art teachers in years 0 through 5. So we're looking at brand new teachers and then supporting those that are in those first few years, as well as looking at how we are using arts integration in the classrooms. That particular grant supports, I have one half-time person on my staff, my assistant, that mentors teachers. There are 4 mentor teachers from UWM that are part of the Arts Eco program, and they are out in schools mentoring those new teachers. Arts at Large and Linden Sculpture Garden provide opportunities for teachers, artists, and residences with certified teachers that are being mentored, as well as classroom teachers that are interested in pursuing a arts integration certificate at UWM, and then potentially just in infusing that arts integration aspect. So that is the premise for the Cargill grant. So again, it focuses on mentoring teachers 0 through 5 years, and that is through the 4 mentors at UWM, as well as my assistant who works for that grant for 0.5 FTE. In looking at the AIM grant, that is a grant for professional development from the U.S. Department of Education, and that is essentially what it is designed for. There are 2 pieces to that grant. One is the development of music and art teachers based on their educator effectiveness scores. So the grant was developed that if a teacher did not score at least a 3 or a proficient level on their EE, that they would receive professional coaching from a arts specialist as well as a music specialist, which are supplied by the grant. Since we do not have EE in the world of COVID, we've continued on with those teachers that were in need of support that have been either identified by themselves or by their principals. And over the last 3 years, this is the last year of the grant, so it ends on September 30th. We have served approximately 75 to 80 music and visual art teachers over the course of those 3 years. In addition to that, the second part of the grant is providing arts integration across the district to schools based on their school improvement plan. So we looked at school improvement plans and the arts readiness and the depth of understanding or appreciation of the arts in looking at their schools' goals for music and art, as well as how we're engaging students in the regular classroom through reading, writing, and math through ambitious instruction. Over the past 3 years, we have served a number of schools. The grant specifically states that it covers the turnaround art schools. So it has supported Roosevelt, MLK Elementary, Lancaster, and Sherman for the past 3 years, not only the art and music teachers, but also classroom teachers in visual arts. We have covered Milwaukee High School of the Arts, Bayview, Lad Lake Synergy, and Project Stay as our 4 high schools that we have supported over the last 3 years. And the elementary schools that we have worked with are Parkview, Elm Creative Arts, Brown Street, Hayes, Forest Home, Whitman, Kluge, Mitchell, Alba, Allen Field, Lincoln Center of the Arts, and Starms, Early Childhood. In terms of looking at the partnership that we have with Arts at Large, they have provided the arts integration coaching along with us. The grant includes 2 arts integration support teachers. However, as you can tell by the list of schools that we have supported, we needed additional help. And those coaches that are employed through Arts at Large are 2 actually retired classroom teachers from Milwaukee Public Schools. In each of these schools, Arts at Large has provided artist residencies. Currently, we see Bayview, Lad Lake, and Project Stay currently have ones that are happening right now as we speak, even in the virtual environment. It also has included supplies for any of the projects that take place in any of those general education classrooms, field trips, gallery space. Bayview students just recently had a gallery opening and showing of their own work. Lad Lake will be next to show their work in the space at the Arts at Large Gallery. They've also provided professional development space, professional development stipends for teachers that have been involved in the arts integration program that is looking at the museums that have been taking place at the schools, as well as artist residencies. For the Cargill grant moving forward for next year, each one of the teachers that are supported by the Cargill grant will have an artist residency taking place in their classroom so they can work side by side with an actual artist working in the community. The fallacy that exists is that there are no services being provided by Arts at Large that is teaching an art classroom at this time that is provided through the Cargill or the Arts at Large grant in terms of the AIM grant. And both of those are focused specifically only on providing professional development through arts and arts integration.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
And okay, yes, it looks like Director Phillips' connection is out. So
and I'm
given that you are the vice
so.
chair, I'm asking the president's privilege in order for you to follow up before taking the gavel. Go ahead, Director Herndon.
Thank you very much. I had did some research on art integrated professional development, and this was one of the major concerns was that in our quest for expanding all of the arts, it's almost as though this doesn't really get it because art integration as defined, the goal is not to teach music, it's not to teach visual arts or any of it may happen. Possibly the core premise is to expand on professional development. Would that be a fair assessment?
Vice Herndon, members of the committee, yes, that is correct. These were grants that were written in support of ambitious instruction. The AIM grant does focus specifically on providing professional development to providing quality coaching to visual arts teachers. It is not about the expansion of art or music, but improving the quality that is already taking place in our classrooms. The Cargill grant, the Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, is only focused on providing coaching and mentoring to visual art teachers in years 0 through 5. So those are the parameters of the grant.
Thank you.
Any more follow-up, Vice Chair Herndon?
Not at this time.
Director Woodward. Oh, any other comments or questions by committee members? We did hear from our speakers. So what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? President Miller.
Your microphone is muted. President Miller.
Still muted.
I move adoption of the administration's recommendation, and if people have more issues, they can pull it at the full board meeting, and we could discuss those questions. But at this point, I would like to advance it.
All right, so we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Miller's motion to approve the exception to bid contracts as recommended by the administration, Director Herndon.
No.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
No.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 3 ayes, 2 noes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 11, action on the Department of Recreation and Community Services Risk Management Plan. The recommendation is that the board approve the plan as presented in the attachment to this item.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, I would like to begin by commending Department of Recreation staff for taking on the challenge of seeking accreditation. The item that's before you seek the approval of the department's proposed risk management plan. It is in alignment with the rigorous process. This is a huge undertaking and has been taken on with fidelity in order to realize the best outcomes for our staff and our district. At this time, I will ask Lynn Grebs and Troy Clark to start the presentation, and after which we will be more than happy to answer any questions. Actually, they're going to entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay.
Okay. No presentation, but any questions, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Posley, and good evening, Chair Phillips, members of the committee. My name is Lynn Greb, and I'm the Director of Recreation. And as you may recall, last August, we presented to you 4 of our planning documents that are a requirement of our accreditation work. That was the master plan, the continuity plan, the strategic plan, and the ADA transition plan. And this evening, we are here to seek approval on the final planning document tied to our accreditation work, and that is our risk management plan. Recreation Coordinator Troy Clark was instrumental in authoring this plan in partnership with a number of district personnel and external content experts, and he is here this evening to provide you with a brief overview of the plan. Troy?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Chair Phillips, members of the committee. Troy Clark, Recreation Coordinator. A brief overview here. The risk management plan is made up of 3 primary components. It's risk identification, risk assessment, and risk mitigation, which is the largest component of the plan. The intent here with the plan is to identify or help the district and the department identify and assess risks that are associated with the Milwaukee recreation programming and services, as well as identifying and determining additional control methods that are needed, and ultimately and most importantly, really is to just reduce risk in general and eliminate or reduce the potential for loss to the department and district. We do have a review schedule for the plan as part of this accreditation work and general best practice. So we're looking at updating the plan or reviewing it annually with all full-time staff. And annually as well, we will be conducting our risk identification and assessment component as well, and updating those areas where needed. So with that, that's my brief overview, but we are at this time ready to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, administration. Do members of the committee wish to make comment or ask questions? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
All right, what is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Dr. Taylor.
I'll move approval of the item.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the Department of Recreation's risk management plan. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 12, action on a request to approve the second amendment to the lease agreement with the Milwaukee Bicycle Collective, Inc. for the use of Merrill Park Fieldhouse. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached agreement for the use of the Merrill Park Fieldhouse.
Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we are asking for your approval of the second amendment of the lease with the Milwaukee Bicycle Collective. This is a nonprofit organization partnering with the district to support our bike programs with our recreation and curriculum and instruction by providing resources relative to bike repairs and providing refurbished bikes, parts, and accessories used by students throughout the district programming. At this time, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comment or ask questions? President Miller.
Yeah, I move adoption of this item. I'm very supportive of the work that they do.
All right, we have a motion. Any members of the public that wish to speak to this item, Madam Secretary?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Miller's motion to approve the administration's recommendation for the second amendment to the lease agreement with the Milwaukee Bicycle Collective for the use of Merrill Park Fieldhouse. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 13, action on the monthly facilities matters, the FMS awards of construction contracts and professional services contracts. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached construction and professional service contracts recommendation.
Administration.
Yes, Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we're asking for your approval for the facilities and maintenance contracts that are before you. Sean Kane is here with me, and between the two of us, we can answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is quite the list this month. So thank you for getting all of these contracts available. Does the committee have any comments or questions in respect to this item? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no speaker slips on this item.
What is the pleasure of the committee in respect to this item? Vice Chair Herndon.
Madam Chair, I move approval per the administration's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the monthly facilities matters as recommended by the administration, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Taylor,
Aye.
Director Woodward,
Aye.
and Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item number 14, the report with possible action regarding the task force on strategies and guidelines to develop capacity and attracting, retaining, and developing bilingual teachers and support staff. This is an informational item, and although it has been noticed for possible action, no action is required.
Thank you. Administration.
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we end this evening's a meeting with an overview of a comprehensive report submitted by the Bilingual Task Force. I would like to thank the many individuals who contributed during the many meetings of the task force and to develop the development of the report that is before us. At this time, I will ask Mr. Eduardo Gabon to begin an overview of the report. And after he concludes, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to this item. Mr. Gabon.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. Chair Phillips, members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Regional Superintendent for the Southwest Region. I too would like to begin by thanking all the members of the task force for their participation up to this moment in the task force to date. We have had 9 meetings starting pre-pandemic and continuing during the pandemic. During these meetings, we have presented information, continually asked for feedback, and we thank everyone who has presented and every individual who has provided feedback. We have gotten feedback from members through Google Forms, which we create and share for each meeting. We have spoken to individuals who have called us, who have emailed us. Many reached out to steering committee members. So we have provided those, taken that information in. After every meeting, we have provided answers, if not during the meeting, subsequent to the meetings, and posted those and shared those along with minutes. All of that information has been used to create the report which you have before you. I would also like to acknowledge that the staff of MPSU and Human Resources has been invaluable. Their goal is the same as everyone's involved in the task force, which is to create opportunities for individuals to become bilingual teachers for our MPS students. The task force, again, was made up of parents. They have participated, MPS paraprofessionals, teachers, MTEA members have been present, board members, principals, community members, and members of the MPS administration have participated as well. Just as an outline, the first page provides background in terms of how the task force was formed. Moving on, the task force itself was prepared, the report itself was prepared, focused on the board action of December 2019, which outlined 7 points. So this report attempts to provide information around those 7 points, and then we'll follow with some recommendations. Again, this report does not signify the end of the task force, nor does it signify that the task force has completed all the recommendations as we will continue to work. The first point of focus for the task force was a request to provide information on how Milwaukee Public Schools and divisions, including MPSU, would provide support financially and otherwise to bilingual paraprofessionals who wish to become bilingually certified teacher. The following pages just outline guidelines for bilingual education, and then subsequent to that, the different types of bilingual educators. On page 5, for example, bilingual K-9, bilingual special ed, bilingual high school and content-specific, bilingual Montessori. Proceeding or following that on page 6 is just a listing of some of the offerings that MPSU offers their program participants to meet those requirements and obtain that certification. Page 7 continues with an explanation of timelines and clarity that has been a continuous ask from the members that have been present and from the community members who have participated in terms of clarity around these situations that they encounter. One of those being around finances. So I did want to draw particular attention on page 7 to mention that MPSU negotiates lowered tuition for our university partner programming. For example, in Maestros de Mañana program with Alverno campus tuition for a regular student is $1,200 per credit on average. So for those completing that program, starting from freshman year, traditional freshman year, and continuing on, you would spend an estimated $100,000 to complete that program. Through MPSU and their negotiation, they've been able to negotiate $300 per credit, which also includes books, testing, a computer, and any other fees, which leads to, again, an estimated $26,000 total cost for those participants. When students complete this programming, which is listed in the case scenario, there is a amount due by those participants. Those people would have to pay back that amount. It does not cover the entire amount of that $26,000. But taking into consideration, again, that paraprofessionals have less of an income, the remaining balance is paid by them at $25 per paycheck while they are paraprofessionals. And then once they do become a teacher of record, that becomes $150 per paycheck until that balance is due. Again, the case scenario there, that is for a student who would participate in Maestros de Mañana program with some amounts outlined there in terms of cost of program and balances. And again, as I mentioned, upon completion, there would be a balance due. And again, the repayment of that changes as the paraprofessional becomes a teacher of record. Again, it is important to understand that this was an area that there was much clarification sought. I do believe the feedback from the task force has shown us that has been given, and we will continue to make sure that moves forward. On page 9, there is a flow chart which was created again through the task force. In fact, it was presented. There was feedback given, which led to this document, and it just outlines the different categories that some of our possible and potential bilingual teachers would go through, whether that is a paraprofessional, whether that is a college graduate, but maybe outside of the area of teaching, teachers who are seeking to become bilingual teachers. Also following on page 9 is a paraprofessional's journey. Again, this is just a trajectory for a paraprofessional to become a teacher. That continues again into page 10. The point of focus number 2 is very similar to that in number 1. Again, the difference being that number 1 dealt with paraprofessional, and the point of focus number 2 deals more specifically with those teachers who wish to become bilingual teachers or receive related certification. So again, many of the supports, many of the programs available will be similar, with that major difference being that these are now individuals who are teachers and moving to add that certification. Important to outline that we've also provided this information in various formats, whether that's the MPSU webpage, which will continue to be updated, a cafe online tool, which is similar to that at other universities, where individuals will be able to look at their particular information, whether that's progress in program, amounts due, due dates on that amount. All that information will be available to them. Also, all program participants will have and have already had regularly scheduled meetings to review financial awards and standing, and that will be a practice that will continue moving forward. Also outlined are just what candidates who hold a bachelor's degree seeking alternative certification must go through. And again, this is all information that has been presented, if not at multiple, at least one of the meetings. And again, feedback has been asked for provided, and clarity has also been asked for and provided. Also, MPSU, if MPSU is not a good fit for the employee, other programs are explored to find the best possible education opportunity for said employee. Task force point of focus number 3 is work with partner universities and MPSU that would allow future teachers to complete their student teaching on the job while working in MPS. Again, the information that follows there is just descriptions of what it means to be a mentor teacher for a student teacher placement and some of those requirements. This is an area which the task force will continue to work on moving forward, as some of those suggestions and clarity was brought up at the last meeting. Again, the task force will continue to work towards that in terms of providing more information on how that can happen within MPS, meaning that student teachers can continue to work in MPS, our internal paraprofessionals. Again, as we move forward, task force point of focus number 4 deals with working with partner universities, the Department of Public Instruction, and MPSU that would develop performance portfolios for future bilingual teachers and that lead to quality bilingual teaching. The use of portfolios would be an alternative to the Foundations of Reading Test, or FORT, for candidates to meet the requirements to obtain teaching credentials. Again, MPSU, Milwaukee Public Schools, and the partners, the agent programs within, departments within, will continue to support all of our students, all of our participants, to meet whatever requirement is in place, be that EdTPA, be that the FORT, whatever the university requires of them, we will provide them to support. Again, we will follow the rules. Currently, our university and program partners use DPI-approved requirements for portfolios. At the state level, across K-12 education advocacy organizations, there are ongoing conversations about amending or eliminating the FORT and updating it with a more fair and appropriate assessment. And we will work with students should that change come about. Prior to our last meeting, I did have a conversation with Mr. Thiel in terms of there is movement on this at the DPI level. There are other agencies that also have concerns about the FORT, and we will continue to monitor that situation and adjust to better support our students if and when changes are made in that requirement. Point of focus number 5 is, again, work with partner universities and MPSU to create programmatic strands in middle and high schools that encourage students to consider becoming bilingual teachers. Again, listed there is information, including an education pathway pilot that MPSU is working with through M-Cubed. In addition to that, we did meet with Mr. Trejo at South Division to begin that process at an even earlier age in terms of, and as we reported this to the board before, working with students from Allen Field, Forest Home, to get them more, hopefully pique interest by pairing them with experienced bilingual teachers so that they get a better understanding of what being a bilingual educator would be, and then hopefully use that opportunity to enter in one of these programs to gain credit at the university level and continue on to become bilingual educators. Point of focus number 6 is to work within an equity lens to eliminate the barriers to becoming a certified bilingual teacher, including MPS and state standardized tests and other related requirements. Again, we will continue to work to provide support to candidates fulfilling any requirements, including the FORT exam. Should DPI or university's requirement change to no longer include the FORT or offer an alternative to the FORT, MPS will support candidates in that case as well. Again, on page 17, it does again list many of the supports that we are already providing and will continue to provide. Just a few, the small group tutorials, language assessment supports, MPSU bilingual liaison report. MPSU programs have eliminated the GPA requirement at our university partners, have lowered theirs for our students. So many of those are given right there. Point of focus number 7, Again, offer courses for the development of greater proficiency in English and other languages for future bilingual teachers. These courses would support candidates' complete program requirements. Again, MPSU and Milwaukee Public Schools and other departments within MPS have provided those supports, and we will continue to provide those supports. MPSU offered ESL Level 1 and ESL Level 2 courses prior to the pandemic to assist individuals who needed to improve their English speaking, comprehension, and reading skills, and these courses can and will resume at any time. Finally, the task force did provide 3 recommendations. Again, these recommendations are a start. They do not represent all the recommendations that the task force will continue to work towards and provide in the future. The first recommendation is that the Office of Human Resources and MPSU will develop and implement an onboarding process for current MPS employees and interested external candidates seeking to pursue teaching certification to improve clarity and specific information regarding cost, length of program, and expectations for completion. Human Resources and MPSU will create a teacher pipeline education recruitment cycle by May 2021, which will include regular reports on attrition, retention, and recruitment data. Recommendation number 2, when grants become available for application and consideration, the district shall consider giving priority to initiatives to attract, support, and retain bilingual, ESL, and world language educators. And recommendation number 3, the task force, human resources, and language schools will research and investigate alternatives to the current language fluency testing. Again, I do think it bears repeating once again that these are initial recommendations. The task force will continue to work together to provide and bring other recommendations to the board in future meetings. At this time, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, administration, for that thorough report out. I did want to acknowledge our guest to committee today, Vice President Baez, that I know has been part of the motion in December 2019 that led to this task force. Director Baez, did you have any comments or questions at this time?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Phillips. First of all, I want to thank the administration for this preliminary report, particularly Mr. Galvan and Mr. Harris, who I know brought together a lot of thinking on all of this and made possible putting together this report, which basically, and with all due respect, is an inventory of what the administration would love to do, is doing to pursue the idea of making sure that we have well-prepared bilingual teachers for the future of the expansion of bilingualism in the district. So thank you so much for that. In the report, you basically do a good job laying out what the administration will do. And this was generally a report, developed by administrators, yes, with the input of what happened in meetings of the task force. And I recall very well, having been to all the task force meetings, the discussions we had, and I appreciate that. Particularly appreciate the fact that chart number and page number 9 was the tedious, doing of the bilingual liaison, Maria Jenkins and myself going back and forth, how to best express, how to guide somebody that wants to become a bilingual teacher, both paraprofessionals, permit teachers in the system. So I appreciate that. What I think needs to be said is like the task force is still, its work is still not completed, as Mr. Galvan has said, because the report is sort of like missing the advocacy that comes from the voices of the people affected. That was the intent of the original motion. The intent of the motion was to make sure that we had paraprofessionals, that we had the people who were bilingual permit teachers, et cetera, speaking up on many of these issues that sometimes are a given because of the rules we have to follow, but sometimes necessitate that people like them say, if we were to do it this way, maybe it would be better. If we were to engage DPI in this, maybe we can attain certain kinds of changes. If we were to listen to the people who are affected by this, maybe we can create this kind of a program, this kind of initiative. I think that that aspect of the report has not been completed yet. Mr. Galvan is correct. This is a preliminary layout of everything we have, but we need to complete the work of the task force so that that can be done to the satisfaction of as many people as we can, and to help them out, and to actually embrace and nurture and really support and help those people that want to become bilingual educators, world language educators. So I think that given that, you have before you what is a decent report. It's something that really lays out everything that we talk about, okay? And I appreciate that. But in addition to that, the next meetings of the task force, because of the way it was organized, because of the way the meetings were structured, the fact that we spent a long time not doing anything because of the pandemic, and then we came back and it was mostly reports and reports and reports on what to do. There's still a little bit of confusion out there. There's still people that are scared by seeing $26,000, that I have to invest, even though we're eating up a lot of that. It seems to me that it behooves us, if we make sure that the next meetings of the task force really give voice to the population of people affected as we intended in the original motion, okay? And I have an idea about how do we do that. Maybe it requires a bit of a motion on our part to make sure that it happens. And by the way, before I go on, I am recalling that there were some members of the task force that originally came to the meetings, but then because of the good work that was done in creating MPSU programs to get them into, they started to go to school, and then they could not attend the meetings of the task force, okay? Because the classes were at the same time. We need to give an opportunity to those folks to have, in addition to Mr. Galvan sending out notices and saying, please give us your feedback, because some people simply don't know and don't do it. We have to have ways to make sure that we put them to work and give us good ideas and good recommendations that become their recommendations to the board, more than an administrative layout of what we do and we love to do. Okay, so I have an idea. I think that we can sort of like make an amendment here, some kind of a motion that makes the report much better in its final forms. And my idea is intended to do that. It's not intended to be in any way combative of what has been done, but to improve upon what we do and become more engaging and more inclusive in the suggestions of people. I did talk to President Miller about this, and there is a motion that I would like, because I can't make a motion on this committee, that I would like to propose. So I'm not too sure how to proceed. Director Miller, do you want to read the motion, or?
Well, you can refer to me as the chair, Vice President Baez. That's all right. So I did see
my apologies.
I did see that President Miller had his hand raised. So go ahead, President Miller. I see that you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. No.
Try to use the device on your headphones to mute and unmute.
How's that?
Perfect.
Great.
Oh my goodness. I don't know what's happened tonight. I apologize. I'm all thumbs. So Chair Phillips, yes, Director Baez had contacted me and asked me if I would read the motion, because I'm on the committee, asked that I would read the motion into the record for us to consider on committee, if that's okay, Chair Phillips, with you.
Go ahead.
Okay, considering, by the way, that Mr. Galvan talked about the bilingual task force continuing, this is, from what I read in it, it gives some specificity around some of the work that is being proposed. I move that the final report of the Bilingual Task Force shall include recommendations by bilingual paraprofessionals, bilingual permit teachers, students, parents, community members, and other expertise on bilingual and world language issues. In its next meeting, the Bilingual Task Force will create working groups for this purpose. The working group shall prepare recommendations on all aspects of the financial support from MPS and the specific out-of-pocket cost to future bilingual and world language teachers. Protocols so that bilingual and world language teachers complete their student teaching on the job at MPS, alternative ways of assessing the language proficiency of bilingual employees, and how to engage DPI on the standards for bilingual and related certification, and on the most efficient and effective reorganization of MPS programs, support systems to advocate for, and retain and nurture educators for the expansion of bilingualism in MPS. So that is a motion.
All right. Do we have any comments from administration?
Chair Phillips and members of the committee, we look forward to getting a copy of the motion and look forward to the task force continue their work. As we talked, it was work that they've been doing, and they looking forward to continue that work to see what we can do to better meet the needs of our staff, and also to help support our classroom in quality teachers and instruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members? Oh, go ahead, President Miller.
So before I go on, I just want to thank the Bilingual Task Force for the long and hard work that they've done. And I know that Mr. Galvan has been right in the center of that, and I totally respect that and appreciate that. And I know that from what I've understood, Mr. Harris has come in with the support of HR and help put this together, because a lot of this lands right in HR with, how are we going to get people certified? So I just want to give my total appreciation to this very hard work, very complicated work that's gone on.
Thank you, President Miller. Do we have other comments or questions by committee members? Madam Secretary, do we have members of the public that wish to speak to this item?
Madam Chair, we have no public testimony on this item.
I would like to pass the gavel to Vice Chair Herndon.
So noted.
I have the gavel. Director Phillips.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo thanks to Mr. Galvan, the committee, particularly our colleagues, Dr. Baez and Dr. Peterson, that participated in this task force. And I appreciate just how much thoughtfulness went into the report, and even discussing it as a preliminary report, and the commitment of this task force to continue on is very important. I also wanted to commend some of the work that connects to this that Mr. Harris was also involved in terms of the Central Region staffing. It seems like we are doing a deep dive into thinking about how we are not just recruiting, but retaining talent in this district here with this bilingual task force, with the Central Region, and also with how we've expanded virtual job fairs and different marketing that I've seen over the past year, which has been difficult for everybody. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Harris and the HR team for doing all of that work in the midst of everything going on. But I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to make sure that those things went forward. So thank you, Vice Chair, for acknowledging me.
Thank you, Director Phillips. Are there any more questions or discussion from the remaining committee members? If not, I'll return the gavel to Chair Phillips.
So noted.
All right, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll on the motion?
On the motion is read into the record by President Miller on regarding the task force on strategies and guidelines to be developed to develop capacity in attracting, retaining, and developing bilingual teachers and support staff. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Miller.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director Woodward.
Aye.
And Chair Phillips.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on tonight's agenda.
All right. I see that President Miller has his hand raised. So
Yes.
President Miller.
I just, this is the 132nd AFP meeting that I've either been on, participated in, chaired, or listened to in the last 12 years. And it's never been as efficient as it has been this last year, or these last 2 years that Director Phillips was in charge. In all seriousness, we in the past, even when I was chair, it wasn't as efficient as Director Phillips. Trust me. We've gone for hours and hours, and I really appreciate the work that she's done. And I just, it's a great committee, and I just want to appreciate all the work that everybody's done on it and what the administration has done. It just dawned on me that this will be the last meeting that I'll actually be a board member participating. Maybe as a citizen, a public citizen, I might, but as a board member, this is my last AF&P meeting. Thank you, Director Phillips.
Oh, thank you so much, President Miller. And I'll use Chair's privilege just to provide a public service announcement. As there's a lot of information around vaccines going around, I did want to highlight something that is going on through the county. So Milwaukee County COVID-19 program is actually focusing on zip codes within our community. So anyone over the age of 18 is eligible to sign up from the following zip codes: 53204, 53209, 53218, 53233, 53205, 53215, 53223, 53206, 53216, and 53224. So if you are currently not eligible under 1B or 1C, anyone over the age of 18 that live and reside in these zip codes are eligible through community clinics through Milwaukee County. So for more information on access to that, you could visit covidmke.com, and that will direct you to that information. We've Director Taylor, as part of this committee, that is also a leader as part of Milwaukee County. I didn't know if she had anything to add to that, but that is something that's available. And there's also a new category that is eligible for COVID-19 vaccines on March 22nd, which is this Monday. So just wanted to provide that information because I know there's a lot of information going out right now. And I got a thumbs up from Dr. Taylor. Well, thank you, everyone. There are no other items on tonight's agenda. So this meeting is dismissed. Madam Secretary, please record the time.
So noted.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.